Indians, as they exist in the imagination of the European West, we're invisible. We were captured and sterilized and objectified and typecast into whoever we were in the late 1800s according to the Gregorian concept. So when a story is about Native Americans, we almost have to be the perfect victim in order for people to pay attention.
What are we doing? Our water's under attack! Stand up, fight back! What are we doing? Our people are under attack! Stand up, fight back!
We want liberation. We deserve liberation, and we will have liberation. But Standing Rock was part of the process. My name is Chase Iron Eyes, and I was there during the Dakota Access Pipeline protests. I belong to the Titawa Oyate na Ocheti Shakonwi, also known as the Great Sioux Nation. I'm the lead attorney for the Lakota People's Law Project. So at the time that the pipeline fight was beginning, in the early days, there was a community meeting at what is known as Long Soldier District. So that was kind of my beginning as to being noticed that Energy Transfer Partners and their CEO, Kelsey Warren, intended to violate our treaty rights and our inherent rights and force us at gunpoint to accept the financial extractive dictate, especially when they had planned to put it north of Bismarck, North Dakota, which is, I think, something like 90% European American. 18 million people depend on the integrity of the Missouri River. We have a pipeline made at the cheapest cost possible because this is what capitalism does. This oil that is now flowing through our homelands illegally could destroy the entire river forever, or for how long, we don't know. I was there standing with Standing Rock on August 13th, 14th, and 15th. During those days, nobody knew what Energy Transfer Partners were going to do. As I remember, those who were willing to risk their liberties and their freedom and get arrested would go in an act of civil disobedience and chain themselves to the very gate where Energy Transfer Partners wanted to build a transport road. Several mounted horse women and men came onto the scene, and that's what the enemy saw. When they see us on our horses, and those horses are leading us into those situations, it backed up the entire police unit. And while that was happening, 4 women up on the hill decided to go forward of their own volition, and they crossed the fence line. Those women led us into unknown territory, territory that we had not known since 1889. I was there when 80 people rushed that fence line after these 4 women demonstrated that bravery. And these women went straight for the heavy equipment. They offered their bodies in a sacrifice to put themselves between financial extractive genocide and ecocide and the future of their families. As soon as Big Oil found out where our sacred sites were, they sent their team, guarded by a private security firm with deadly attack dogs, to go and destroy these sites. They had moved their heavy equipment more than 20 miles from where they were working on Highway 6, and they had leapfrogged all the way up to these sacred sites and began to destroy them. Hundreds of us were putting ourselves in harm's way. So when these attack dogs were being presented as a very credible threat to unarmed women and children, the warriors of that day took it upon themselves to drive this security team and Dapple's heavy equipment operators back to where they came from. After the dog attacks, camp filled up. We're talking thousands, droves of people began to show up. The security team, they had identified an area that they could defend. It was a bridge whereby they held that bridge and kind of stopped our forward repelling of this threat. No! Those security forces began to mace unarmed people and inflict that pain and brutality.
This is not okay.
People were laying on the ground crying because they were being maced or pepper sprayed.
The police are protecting and serving a pipeline. They're protecting fossil fuel profits over human beings. They're macing people. They're fucking tasing them in the face.
Nobody who's been brutalized during that time was ever made whole. I was there when peaceful water protectors were attacked and brutalized on Backwater Bridge. Flashbangs. This is my first experience with this sort of weaponry. And it was like the 4th of July. There was all sorts of flares, all sorts of less lethal bullets, the things that they're using on protesters today, Black Lives Matter protesters. But it's more than just Black Lives Matter. Obviously, there is a revolution happening right now, but it began at Standing Rock. I was there and I saw blood running from people's eyes. I saw blood running from people's limbs, where these security forces, these private mercenaries, were maiming people.
If anyone man enough, get the fuck over here. I'll be waiting here.
In 20-degree weather, the National Guard, they had a fire hose, and they were spraying all of the water protectors and coating them in water in freezing temperatures. It is an endangerment to human lives, and they knew this. I was there on December 4th to see 3,000 veterans, maybe 10,000, 13,000 people, just a long line of cars going into Oceti because people had been given this great news, and victories were hard to come by at Oceti. But this day we had learned that President Obama and the Army Corps of Engineers were going to deny Big Oil's permit to drill under our river. So we wanted something to celebrate, but I was also very aware that 3 weeks prior, Donald J. Trump was elected president, and he had invested at least $100,000 in the Energy Transfer Partners pipeline. Kelsey Warren had also donated to Donald Trump for America, or whatever his campaign is called. So I knew that if it wasn't a complete ruse, that it was at least an empty-handed promise from the United States government once again.
You had pipelines that couldn't be built. I immediately approved them. Dakota? How about Dakota Access? That was a very unfair situation.
Sure enough, when President Trump was sworn in January 20th, within 72 hours, he completely did a 180, and now Energy Transfer Partners and Kelsey Warren and Donald Trump were dictating the energy policy of the entire United States. I was there in the dark of February 1st, 2017, when again hundreds of military vehicles, law enforcement vehicles, National Guard vehicles began to mobilize north of Backwater Bridge. I was there when we all went to the bridge to find out what the private security apparatus was going to dictate. After about 5 minutes of discussion, Officer Stugelmeyer specifically asked for Chase Iron Eyes. And they let me know, Chase, we know you are responsible for this, and we want you to call all of them off of that hill. And I was there when I replied, you guys have been looking for one chief for 500 years, and there is no one chief who commands those Indians and their allies on Last Child's Hill.
Forward Command 399. It looks like they're starting a fire down there at the entrance to this west side.
We formed a circle and we protected our sacred fire, just like the Buffalo people. I was there in the freezing cold when those police forces and their Bearcats and their LRADs and their Humvees begin to ascend Last Child's Hill and arrest us. Morton County, on behalf of the state of North Dakota, charged me with inciting a riot and criminal trespass, which presented to me a potential to return to prison for 6 straight years. August 23rd, 2018 is when my charges were finally dropped. This is Chase Iron Eyes. I'm standing outside the Morton County Correctional Facilities. It's time for the true patriots to stand up to tyranny, because it's here and it's coming. Since Standing Rock, I know that the American people are waking up to the nightmare that we experienced there at Standing Rock. All the mothers, all the fathers, all the U.S. military veterans who are now being shot with less lethal bullets, who are now being shot between their eyes with concussion grenades, who are now being snatched and grabbed by private police forces. But it's clear to me that we're drawing a line. And right now, Portland is part of the process. Minneapolis is part of the process. Los Angeles. Black Lives Matter is part of the process. The end of Euro-hetero patriarchy is part of the process. But I've been re-recognizing that land is sacred, life is sacred, the universe is sacred. I have available to me, and everybody has available to them, a more informed metaphysics, a more compassionate way of navigating our experience here on Earth. And we have those at Standing Rock to thank for that.